I thought my life was over when my wife died. That is a fact. She was there all the time. When we lived in the US and then England, even if I was on the road and she was back home in England, you know what I mean? You could always call her. Linda got married to Tom Jones when she was only 16 years old. She was scared and pregnant, and she had no idea that her husband would become a famous actor. She also didn't know that he would sleep with a lot of other women while they were married. She stayed, though. During 59 years, she didn't say anything while scams grew. Then came the diagnosis, which experts said was very harsh. She wouldn't take drugs because she wanted to stay awake. She was eager to talk. She planned to say something to Tom before the end. What did she say before she died? Why did they keep coming back to her years after she died? On March 7, 1941, in Pontypridd, Wales, Melinda Rose Trenchard came into the world. While the war was going on in every neighborhood and on every dinner table. During the war, her parents, William and Violet, were only given a few ounces of butter, cheese, and sugar each week. They did their best to keep the family alive. Since there wasn't much food, potatoes and any veggies they could grow in the garden were used to make most of their meals. Even though these things were hard, her arrival brought comfort to friends who were also going through fear, loss, and uncertainty. As a child, she remembers hearing air raid sirens, seeing darkened windows during blackouts, and hearing bombs hitting far away near the Cardiff docks. Even though things were tense, the crowded streets of Wales brought people together and kept them close, even when the world seemed to be going in any direction. In Treforest, a small town just outside of Pontypridd, where her parents ran a small movie theater, her world grew as she did. The reels would spin every night, and the room would be filled with the glow of Hollywood. Melinda watched those flickering movies to forget about the stress of food coupons and bomb threats. She got ideas from old movies like Casablanca and Gone with the Wind. When she was 10, she started selling tickets for her parents. Sometimes she only made a few pence, but she learned a lot about work, duty, and the power of stories. People in the area who needed a break from rebuilding their lives went to the movies. They came in tired, but when they left, they felt better. She remembers the smell of popcorn from her childhood. Seeing movies was a treat in Wales in the 1940s, but she fell in love with them during those years and kept that love alive long after the war was over. After the war finished in 1945, the movie business was bad. As people worked to fix up their homes and get back to normal, they had less time and money for movies. The Trenchard family was barely making enough to stay open by 1948. Around £100 a month during the war had been made, but by the next year, they were worth less than £20. Melinda did what she could to help. She sold tickets late at night and watched her dad do odd jobs to keep things going. A lot of families in South Wales were having the same problems, and unemployment was still very high. She had to learn about money in a way that most kids don't have to during those years. Each coin was important. Each choice was important. Every hard time taught her to keep going. Pontypridd was a poor place to live because of coal mining. They lived in a small house with only one bedroom. Melinda and her siblings shared her room. Workers in coal mines made only £2 a week, which wasn't even enough to feed their families. The homes were small, cold, and sometimes wet. And most people heated their homes with coal bits they found at nearby dumps. People washed their clothes in cold water because hot water wasn't always at hand. She saw her dad fix machines during the day and work at the movie theater at night, often for 12 hours straight. These events painted a clear picture of how to survive and bounce back. They taught her that even though life was hard, it could still be full of love. Her strength grew even stronger because of the fear of the war. Pontypridd had a lot of air raid drills, and Melinda remembers how she and her parents hid under the movie theater seats when the sirens went off. Flights of planes overhead became a part of her nights, and the kids learned to be calm and quiet. A lot of bombs fell near the town in 1941, even though the whole world was shaking. And even though none of them made it to the movies, the stress made her more brave. She learned early on that trouble might be close. But life still had to go on. Those times made her brave in ways that would last for decades. In 1952, her life went in a direction she had not planned. In that year, she met a boy whose name was Thomas John Woodward but who became famous as Tom Jones. She was 12 years old, and so was he. But he was sick with tuberculosis for 2 years and had to stay in bed all day, looking out the window. From there, he saw Melinda play marbles outside her house, and her laughter made his long recovery better. He often said that seeing her was the best part of his day and that he looked forward to cuddling her when he got better. With such hope, Melinda had no idea that she was being watched, but those few moments set the tone for a friendship that would last a lifetime. They became close very quickly, especially when they played kiss chase in the wet streets of Treforest. It was known that the weather in Wales never stayed dry for long. They ran through puddles, hid in doorways, and chased each other with the joy that only kids can feel. Tons of boys in the area liked Melinda because she was fun and beautiful, but Tom was always looking at her. He finally caught her during those games, and the kiss they shared felt different. She later told him this with a shy smile. The seeds of something much bigger were being laid by those simple, soft moments. The things got worse when they were 15 years old. They met behind Tom's back at a phone box at the end of his street. Wales had endless rainstorms, and the phone box protected them from both the rain and their parents' nosy eyes. Their dreams were something they were afraid to say out loud to other people. After the fact, Tom said that they felt so wrapped up in each other it was hard to believe. He loved the place so much that he moved the phone box to their home in Los Angeles many years later. Those quiet nights together, full of secret kisses and shared dreams, set the stage for a marriage that would last 59 years. Melinda and Tom became friends because they both loved movies. Since her family ran a movie theater, she watched stars like Elvis Presley and enjoyed the bright lights of Hollywood as a child. She was an usher, and Tom would listen to the same music while he was getting better. Both of them felt like they needed to have fun. Their dreams were bigger than their small town. The movie theater made their days better and gave them a place to dream of a future without cold dust and gray skies. She didn't make things easy for him, though. You can see them dancing together in local clubs in the 1950s. She made fun of him by acting like she wasn't paying attention when he tried to win her over. He tried to get her attention, but she laughed. But slowly, she let him in. And Tom always thought she was the most beautiful girl in the hall. He was proud when she finally picked him. With music playing and lots of young people around, the halls turned into a place where a relationship that was once just for fun became very real. On March 2, 1957, everything changed. Melinda married Tom Jones at the Pontypridd Registry Office when she was 16. They became adults faster than they planned because of an unexpected pregnancy. The event was small and quiet, and she felt a lot of pressure, but she took on the part with confidence that she didn't show on the outside. They would go to places they never thought they would go together after they got married. A few months later, things got even worse. They had their son Mark in a small apartment in Treforest, just a few days after she turned 17. She had a hard time giving birth and now has serious postpartum depression. A sickness that not many people talked about in the 1950s. Tom sang in bars at night, and the small apartment wasn't very comfortable. As she cared for a newborn and fought her own demons, she felt alone and stressed. Most people around her didn't see how much pain she was in, and she got through each day without the help that young moms today get. She got a job at a thermometer plant in the Tower Trading Estate to make extra money. The weather was terrible. The air was filled with fumes that stuck to the clothes of the workers. The hours were very long and hard. She hated every second of it. Tom's income, on the other hand, wasn't stable, so her wages kept the family living. She worked with other women who were just as tired as she was and just as eager to get through the day. Melinda was determined, which helped her get through the hard work. She had a miscarriage years later, after Mark got older and moved out. That took away her desire to have more children. She would always remember the loss. After many years, Tom told her that they had always wanted a big family but that fate wouldn't let them. Because she worked long factory shifts and was sad, she never really got over it. I'm Melinda Rose. Linda joined the plant in the early 1950s, just like a lot of other young Welsh women. But what made her different was that every tired breath she took had a reason. She worked long hours and full shifts at the Harris and Sheldon thermometer plant in Pontypridd, where she had to be careful with fragile glass. Even though every day was the same, she saved her £2 because she knew where it was supposed to go. Tom, her son, had been taking voice lessons since he was 12. The lessons were pricey for a family living off of work wages. She still saved, though. Most British workplace women made about £1.80 a week around 1952. So her £2 made her a little taller than other people. But for a family with a dream, it was still hard. She kept going even though her fingers hurt because she thought the lessons were important. In ways that other people didn't always notice, her workdays got busier around the middle of the 1950s. The women who worked at the plant had to deal with sexism and rude comments all the time. Those who got pregnant were put under even more stress. When Melinda got pregnant again in 1954, her bosses said things that made it clear they didn't like it. She was afraid of losing her job, and when she miscarried soon after, her fear grew even stronger. There was no family leave at the factories. Women were supposed to come back right away or leave for good. In 1955, very few British women got any kind of safety while they were pregnant, and harassment was often not reported. Melinda kept her pain to herself, just like a lot of working moms in Britain after the war had to. As 1959 turned into 1960, her hard work finally paid off and she was promoted to line supervisor. She now taught new workers, mostly young Welsh women, how to carefully put thermometers together. It was a time to be proud, and in many ways it was. Still, the air in the plant was always dangerous. There was fine glass dust everywhere, and people were coughing more than they should have. In 1961, 17 people in Pontypridd had tuberculosis. It was linked to a lot of illnesses, and every worker knew how dangerous it was. Melinda kept going anyway, making sure her team stayed safe and teaching them how to do things that needed time and accuracy. In Wales in 1960, only 8% of factory managers were women. She stood quietly and with confidence among them. She worked longer hours than she thought she would in the early 1960s. As she saved money for a £250 damaged Morris Minor, her extra work turned into 60-hour weeks. When I bought that car in 1963, I felt like I had new hope. Back then, a brand new Morris Minor cost around £350, so even a used one took months of hard work. But after she bought it, she drove Tom to auditions all over South Wales, sometimes more than 100 miles in one day. She walked this far because each step gave him a chance to be heard. That choice helped shape the way he got to his big break in 1965. At the top of the charts in 1965, Tom's song, "It's Not Unusual." Melinda quit her job at the factory for good. She should have felt free when she left, but years of noise, dust, and doing the same thing over and over again stuck with her. She had memories of the desks and the stress of the assembly lines. Echoes that a lot of former factory workers held. By 1966, more than 30% of former factory workers in Wales said they were still having effects from the trauma they went through at work. She knew that she had those feelings. They became a part of her private life as she started a new life shaped by Tom's growing fame. She left Treforest that same year and went to Los Angeles with Tom. Even though the move was hard, she tried to keep some things from home. The red phone box at the end of their Treforest Street was one of those things. As teens, they talked for hours in it, so they didn't leave it behind. Instead, they had it sent to their new home in Beverly Hills. It stood in the yard to remind them of how they got started. In July 1965, Tom began his first tour of the U.S. By the end of the year, he was playing at the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas. Melinda held on to that phone box to feel grounded in the midst of her newfound fame. While they were having parties in the late 1960s, stars crowded into their new home in Beverly Hills, where she lived with her husband. Diana Ross, the Supremes members, and other famous people went through the doors. But Melinda often hid the scars on her hands that were left over from working in a factory. She was proud of them. She tried to fit in with Hollywood life, but she always felt like she didn't belong. She was missing home as she walked through the mansion rooms. The house was both a safe place for her and a reflection of all the things she missed in Wales. It had elements of American luxury and Welsh nostalgia. She got a job at a nearby bank to feel more stable. She was able to handle the money side of Tom's growing business, and she felt free. Early royalty checks came with a lot of difficult paperwork, and the IRS was already keeping a close eye on him. During the crazy first few years of her fame, her banking skills kept the family out of trouble and gave them a sense of order. She looked after their money the same way she used to look after her savings for his lessons in Wales. At the same time, she taught their son Mark the same kinds of rules she had learned before she got famous. He learned how to be on time, be responsible, and stay grounded from her. He became more like these traits as he got older, and by the 1980s, he was Tom's boss. Melinda's quiet direction helped him find his way in a world that was both stressful and full of chances. With each careful choice he made, she lived on through him. To deal with moving from Wales to Beverly Hills all of a sudden, she made a small safe place inside the house. She turned her room into her own movie theater by lining it with old movies from her childhood. She watched those movies a lot, and the stories helped her calm down when Hollywood got too loud. She went to that screening room to get away from the stress of fame and recharge. It was a safe place to breathe and remember her past. It made her think of the simple pleasures that shaped her childhood. As more news about Tom's crimes came out, her quiet strength was put to the test again. He told the police in 1968 that he slept with up to 250 people a year. Linda found out about all of his affairs by looking through the hotel records and backstage notes that were all over his things. When she finally got angry with him one night, she hit him so hard that his jaw was white. He later said that was the only time she got angry, but she still didn't ask for a divorce. She knew what he did behind the scenes. She chose to deal with the pain in the same way she used to deal with long shifts at work, by removing each wound from the life she had built at home. Tom's relationship with Mary Wilson from the Supremes for 2 years caused even more sadness. She didn't say anything when she found Mary's love letters in his tour bag. Interracial relationships were looked down upon very harshly in America back then. So the affair quickly became known to everyone. The papers kept writing about it in great detail, and Melinda kept her pain to herself by not confronting Tom or talking to the press. She learned to hold her pain inside and keep going. After many years, in 1988, another painful story started. Catherine Burkery and Tom were together for a short time, and their child, Jonathan Burkery, was born. At first, Tom denied being the father, but in 1989, a court ordered a test that showed he was indeed the father. Judge Judith Shinlin said Tom has to pay more than $96,000 in extra costs and $33,500 a year in child support. Melinda helped deal with the impact and even paid money to keep things quiet. Still, Tom and Jonathan never became close, and Jonathan felt alone as a child. Things got darker when Tom was with someone else. Wallace, Marjorie, tried to kill herself after he broke up with her. She was Miss World 1973. She got sleep aids from his bathroom, passed out, and spent a week in intensive care. When Melinda saw the tabloid stories about it, she burned them right away to get rid of the proof. To show Tom how much she hurt, she hit and kicked him, letting out her anger in a way she rarely did. Tom later said that Marjorie was the person he had ever felt most like loving. Still, he claimed that Linda was the only person he ever went back to. Over the years, Linda always stuck to an unsaid rule. She never asked him about his relationships, demanded answers, wrote to him while he was on tour, or tried to find out more about the people who were in his life. She hid how much she hurt and kept up a strong public picture of her marriage. Friends said it was amazing that she could carry so much. She didn't stay quiet because she was weak, she did it because she thought love required patience. They were married for 59 years because she decided to carry the load quietly, even though things were changing all around them. In the mid-1970s, Linda was first told she had lung cancer. At that time, mortality rates were very low and treatments were very hard on the body. She had smoked all her life. It didn't take long for her to lose all of her strength as she went through long months of chemotherapy. She lost her hair. She threw up a lot. She had trouble sitting up some days. She was going through those cycles every week, and Tom Jones was performing in Las Vegas almost every night. He was trying to keep his business going, and when he got home from shows, Linda was too weak to say much. He later said he didn't know what to do. It was crazy to see her get so small as she lost more than 30 pounds. But she kept fighting, and she lived. At the time, doctors thought it was a wonder that she did because treatments were still very limited. When the early 1980s came around, she had already beaten cancer twice, both times with new treatments that were still being tested in Los Angeles. Early types of immunotherapy were being offered at Cedars-Sinai, and she tried anything that had the least chance of working. But each treatment hurt her lungs in some way. They were already weak because she had smoked for years and worked in a movie theater with her family, where chemicals were used. After the second battle with cancer, asthma hit like a ton of bricks. In 1983, she could feel her breath getting shorter. By the late 1980s, her lungs were working less than 40% of the way they should have. She soon needed air tanks just to get around the house. She had to go to the hospital more than once because her breathing suddenly stopped, and each time made her more weak than the last. Something else had broken inside her a long time before her lungs started to fail. She had a miscarriage in the early 1960s, which stopped her from having any more children. She fell into a deep sadness because of the loss, which changed how she lived. Tom later wrote that she shut herself off and liked being alone at home more than being in public. By the 1980s, she hardly ever left their home in Beverly Hills. She skipped the Grammys, the red carpet, and the whole world. For comfort, she stayed inside and watched old movies, sometimes for days on end. Friends said she didn't talk to many people besides her family. She never took her cover down again because that silence became a part of who she was. Things got worse in the early 1990s. She ended up in urgent care because she got pneumonia while her lungs were already hurt. When her health got really bad, Tom had to skip a big Grammy party in 1993 so he could be with her. After that, she was weak and needed air for weeks while she lay in bed. The doctors told her that any infection at this point could kill her. Tom missed dates, shows, and other plans because she always put her health first. Nevertheless, the fear never went away because each winter felt like a new threat. When she got better for the second time in the late 1990s, she didn't tell their son Mark because she didn't want to distract him or hurt Tom's job. She picked silence again and watched old movies for up to 12 hours a day to take her mind off of things. It helped her deal with things. She didn't talk much about being sick. And only those close to them knew. The secret kept her even more locked up in her own world. The cancer went away for a while, but her body never really got better. She looked like she was hidden from the outside, but behind closed doors, she had a lot of duty. She quietly took care of Tom's growing wealth, which hit almost £200 million by the 1980s and after. She was in charge of all the money matters when Tom left the UK to avoid paying the country's high 98% income tax. She invested in Los Angeles real estate with a steady, calm mind. She bought homes in secret and lived simply, even though they were very expensive. A lot of Tom's friends never knew she was the one who made all of his money because she kept all of her decisions secret. Even though she was in charge of a fortune most people never thought possible, she always acted like the Welsh factory girl she used to be. After Tom became a knight, she could have taken on a title, but she turned down every offer. Lisa Trenchard was her name. She didn't want to be called Lady anything. In 2006, when Queen Elizabeth II knighted Tom, she stayed home because the event seemed too fancy and out of line with her idea of a simple life. That she said no made people admire her even more because it showed how strongly she believed in who she was. Wales always meant a lot to her. She also built a private art collection over the years that was only made up of paintings by Welsh artists. These paintings, which were worth a lot of money, were kept hidden in their Beverly Hills home's theater room so that only family could see them. She had art by Augustus John, Kyffin Williams, and other artists. She didn't do them to show off, she did them to remember where she came from. The collection turned into her own private haven and a peaceful way for her to stay in touch with her roots. She also made plans for their son's future in her own steady way. She taught Mark the ways of being efficient that she learned as a child, before she became famous. In the future, he used what he had learned to run Tom's homes in Las Vegas and his dad's business. He was led by her power behind the scenes all the way to the end. But with the rise of agoraphobia in the 2000s, there was another problem. She lived almost entirely in her Beverly Hills home and rarely went outside. She only took one important trip a year, which was to Pontypridd, Wales, to see the movie theater where she grew up. She would be by herself in the dark and think about the past. Outside of home, it was the only place she felt safe. The rest of the year, she stayed inside, seeing things from the past that reminded her of home. Then, in March 2016, Cedars-Sinai found another lump. Being told she had cancer for the third time came as a hard blow. The doctor said it was very active and thought that previous radiation treatments had hurt the lung tissue around it, which made everything more dangerous now. She had been through a lot before, but this time she went down quickly. Tom said that everyone in the hospital was shocked by how quickly her health got worse in just a few weeks. Her family didn't have much time to figure out what was going on before the cancer got out of hand. That last 10 days, she stayed in bed and wouldn't take strong drugs because she wanted to be able to talk. She sang Welsh songs to Tom every night. They were the same ones she sang to Mark. Her voice was warm even when she was weak. They told her it was unusual for someone in so much pain to refuse drugs, but she wanted every moment to be real. In those days, there was soft music, quiet talk, and the last bits of a love that had been their whole lives. People shouldn't have come over. She kept her strength for her family. She told them what she wanted and asked for something strange. Send the red phone box from the street where she and Tom fell in love back to Treforest, she asked. Years ago, they took it to Los Angeles, but she demanded that it go back to the museum in Wales. As planned, it got there in May 2016 and became a part of the place where their story started. A woman who never forgot where she came from did it as a last act of kindness. As her illness got worse, she started having hallucinations in which she called out to her father, William, and talked about old movies from her youth. Tom said she smiled and sometimes laughed at things they were saying that only she could hear. What she saw made her feel better. They let her go to times in the past when she was safe and with people she loved. She tried to take care of her family even in her last days. She looked over papers while high on morphine and gave her approval for Tom's last big tour dates. This meant that Mark would receive a fortune of about £10 million. A nurse helped her move her hand. But she made the choice. Tom said it was her last gift to their son and a way to protect his future while she died. She died at Cedars-Sinai on April 10, 2016, after a short but tough fight with lung cancer that had spread. She was 75 years old. Tom skipped his planned foreign tour and stayed with her until the end. She had fought emphysema, sadness, and more than one cancer before this one, but it was too much for her. Fans only knew parts of her story because she didn't like being the center of attention. Even after she was gone, those who knew her best talked about how strong she was. She wanted her funeral to be private, and it was. It was just her and the people she loved. No cameras or reporters. After that, her ashes were spread in Treforest, the forest where she and Tom met as kids. Tom kept a small piece with him to comfort himself, but most of her went back to the place where her story began. She told Tom something that stuck with him before she died. She told him to keep going and not die with her. The 2021 song "I Won't Crumble With You If You Fall" was based on those words. In every line, the words hold her strength and his promise from that moment. It came out after her death that she had known about Tom's affairs for a long time, but she stayed because she loved him and didn't want fame to change their lives. Tom said he had hundreds of affairs during their 59-year marriage, but Linda valued the closeness they had as kids more than the trouble that fame brought. She only responded once, when she found out about a big scandal and hit him. She never moved away, though. In the end, Tom called her the love of his life and said that her love for him gave him the strength to keep going. Oh,